Alright guys, today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to give a tournament recap and then also have a deck guide for this Celebi Executor deck that I've been doing well with in tournaments. Went 8-2 in the Ursa Day tournament, the most recent one, it was number 10 I think. Then last night, well it took basically all day, but I went 7-1-1 and I was actually ranked number 1 going into top 4, and I lost in top 4 to Gyarados, unfortunately, which is like the bane of the deck's existence, but I managed to dodge the matchup until really late into that tournament. Ended up placing 5th, even though I had the 3rd highest points. I guess just because of opponents' records, but I did have 22 points. And I think 1st and 2nd had like 2 more points than me each. But yeah, it was a really fun tournament. I just kind of wanted to give a breakdown of it real quick. So round 1 was Pikachu. Nothing really to say there. I think I've beaten like 3 or 4 Pikachus in tournaments so far, and it's usually pretty easy. Erica essentially blanks Pikachu. Just because, you know, Pikachu's been dealing a max of 90 damage. If you have Erica, they did a whopping 40 damage for a whole turn. You know, Executor can deal lethal with just 1 head flip and then 1 non-head flip. Celebi only needs 3 coin flips total, which you can do over the course of a couple turns very easily, even if you don't have Superior. So the matchup is just very favored for you. All the Farfetch'd Aerodactyl decks are always like really easy. Every time I play a fighting deck, it's usually not that big a deal, and they just don't have the damage output. It's just, you know, the classic problem with fighting into grass. Aerodactyl doesn't, I don't super care about it. Like, they'd have to get it online really fast for me not to just immediately Executor, and it could just be a Celebi game anyway. Farfetch doesn't do enough damage. Marshadow doesn't, you know, it does a lot of damage once, but again, Erica fixes half that damage, and then also Farfetch and Marshadow are both one-shotted by a coin flip with Executor, so that's also good for me. And they're also both within 2 head flips of Celebi. And then I did have a mirror match round 3, and I'm trying to remember exactly how I won, but I think we did go to a game 3. No, we didn't. I actually 2-0'd them, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I mean, it's just the same thing as any other mirror match. You're trying to hopefully get your Superior line faster, hoping to get better coin flips, hoping to find your Executor. It's like who has more Ericas. Maybe sometimes it even can come down to like who drew Leaf and who didn't. A few different choices. I think there were only like 1 card different from me, which was really interesting. And then round 4 was against Machamp. And it was basically Machamp, Marshadow. I think they even had Farfetch'd, I'm pretty certain. And then the Mew. The Mew was obviously a little annoying when the Mew tries to out-Celebi the Celebi player. But game 1, they got game 1 because I put them on having to flip 3 out of 4 coins heads, and they flipped all 4 heads with the Mew, which was sad. Then I got games 2 and 3. They played really well. That's actually might be the best player I've ever played so far. So I don't know if Trococo is like, or Trococo is you know, playing a lot of tournaments. I don't know if he's like a relevant player, if he's just like this random person that I came across was really good, but I gave him props in chat after the match because I could just tell they knew exactly what they were doing with a really weird deck. And I think Machamp is actually not too bad into the meta. Obviously, they suffered from some stage 2 issues during the course of our match, and that's just a stage 2 problem. But Machamp plus Geo does knock out Celebi, Mew, doesn't even need it to knock out Pikachu, obviously. So Machamp just has really good numbers right now. Round 5 was going to be a mirror match, and we were 1 card different, I believe. But we both already had enough points to qualify for Top Cut, so I just asked him if he wanted to tie when he did. So, you know, we just got a judge in there, and we tied. My round 6 opponent did not want to tie, and this is when I started streaming, and we 2-0'd the Mewtwo. I think I'm 3-0 or 4-0 against Mewtwo, and that's because if you start Executor and you flip a heads, you're already threatening lethal next turn, and they almost like have to respect it unless they want to super gamble, and that makes them move around the board in usually an inefficient manner. And if you go second, you can start building up Celebi, use Executor to take out, you know, a Ralts or Curlia, for example, and then you just load up the Celebi to revenge kill the Mewtwo that finally took down your Executor. And if the Mewtwo deck isn't running Giovanni, then you know your Executor is going to take at least 2 hits, which is good. But if they do run Giovanni, then, you know, sometimes you might have to just hope they don't have it. But even if they do knock out the Executor, if you drew the Celebi and Superior line, then the chances are you're going to knock out the Mewtwo back. And they also have to have Gardevoir online to be able to one-shot Executor and Celebi immediately after. And so I think generally most of the time you're favored into the matchup unless everything goes right for Mewtwo and basically nothing goes right for you, which does happen, just hasn't happened to me yet in tournament. The decks that run an occasional Mew, that can be a little annoying because what they're trying to do is apply pressure to the Executor. And then when you bring in the basically it comes down to like who knocked out, who gets the first point, because they're trying to, you know, gamble their Mew attack, hoping that it gets your secondary attacker, and then sometimes you have to just hope that they don't flip the 3 out of 4 that they need, so you can then return the favor in kind and hopefully get enough heads. Obviously, when they have 1 energy on Mew, you do have to be cognizant the entire matchup that they are just 1 turn away from gnome hacking the Celebi, because Gardevoir will just add the 3rd energy on there. And so it is something that you could potentially miss. Myself and everybody else with the same amount of points are higher, because I had the 1 tie, so it was possible to have 2 more points than me, although I think there was only 1 or 2 people going to Top Cut that did. They gave us a bye because it was an asymmetrical cut, I guess, to try and like even out the bracket. And then round 8 we went up against, it was, what was this deck? I don't even remember what this was. It was, oh, that's right. So it was a Greninja Marshadow Mew deck that had Hitmonlee and Farfetch. So it felt like really anti-meta, really like a toolboxy kind of deck. I actually really liked the deck, but not enough of their cards essentially deal enough damage for me to care about. Don't care about Hitmonlee at all. Don't care about Farfetch at all. Don't care about Marshadow really. Greninja is like a good Pokemon, but I don't think it's good enough to deal with the tankiness of grass. And the Marshadow, like I said before, will get in that 1 big hit, but does have the flaw of losing to a flipped heads on Executor. So, and then also having half its damage healed with an Erica. But yeah, I do remember that. And then last round in the top 4, I was seeded first going in the top 4. We ended up going to game 3, and I was basically in a situation where they had 1 Sabrina in deck, which I know because we had shared the deck list, right? And they had 8 cards in deck left, and then they drew. And if they didn't have Sabrina, then on my turn, I had the ability to potentially high roll a Celebi and knock out the Gyarados. But usually, it's not even that competitive. The problem is when you verse the Gyarados Dread decks, is Celebi's always in range, obviously. But Executor, if you attack into a Dread, now Executor's in range. And if they Greninja ping you, then Executor's in range. And you can't Erica to play around either one of those pings because you have to Erica then attack, or they Greninja you on their turn. So essentially, unless they don't find Magikarp or Gyarados, which is, you know, it happens, but it's very rare, all your Pokemon are basically going to be able to one-shot. You get one-shotted by Gyarados, and that's obviously a big problem. And then nothing in my deck really has enough time to threaten the Gyarados. So, you know, basically it's really hard to set up a scenario where you can flip 4 heads with Celebi by the time they get it online and start sweeping you. And it's like, you know, it's like a 30-70 matchup for Celebi. So it's really, really bad. Continues to knock me out in tournaments, but we're in a really healthy meta state where basically all the top tier decks have like 1 or 2 really bad matchups. And so you just kind of have to have bracket luck. And as you see, we didn't verse Gyarados until the very end there, which I was fortunate to have experienced. Let's see. Where's this media source? I'm gonna hop over to the deck first. Let me make sure I'm not late for this tournament. Okay, starts in 4 minutes. Okay, I can probably cover the deck in 4 minutes. Let's see. So yeah, I've taken this deck to multiple tournaments, been doing really well with it. I went with this Execute because I think it's a lot more important to be able to pivot easily than it is to deal that 20 damage. You will get caught needing to move the Executor and you won't have your Leaf. And you also don't want to put more energy on it than you need to pivot if you don't have Leaf. So I value the not doing 20 damage more than and pivoting more than the 20 damage, and it served me well. Feel free to do the 20 damage one, but you will get caught with Executor in the active spot, and you will need to move it at some point, and it just won't be good. I also went with this Snivy because Hitmonlee and Zebstrika are like everywhere essentially, and you know, you need to play out the Snivy as soon as possible. Some people run red card, but even if they don't run red card, if it takes a long time to see Servine, then you don't want this thing to get double hit by Hitmonlee, give your opponent a point, and lose the power line in your deck. So I think 70 HP Snivy is just a safe bet, and the tankiness really helps. And then you have the Executor Superior, obviously the Celebes, 1x speed, 1 leaf split. It's been the perfect split so far. You don't have a lot of room in this deck because you run so many Pokemon. Then you've got 2 Pokeball, 2 Research for consistency. And then I'm running double Erica. There are versions with this deck that run 1 Erica and then 1 single point Executor. I think the Erica is just way more valuable, especially whenever you have a lot of games where you just have to go all in on Celebi, and that Erica will keep it around for a whole nother role. And I think that that's really important. Also, Erica really helps shore up the Pikachu matchup, because without it, a lot of the benefit of running this deck in the first place kind of goes out of the window when you're versing like hyper aggressive strategies. So I think it's definitely worth it to continue to play 2 Erica and just don't play the single point Execute. I would say if you plan on going to tournaments, I think you should, you'll know if they're running red card or not. And I do things like I don't put down the Superior until I have to, so that way in their mind they might be thinking like, oh, maybe he doesn't have it, maybe I can make this play, maybe the Celebi attack won't be so good. You know, you just don't give your opponent any information that you don't have to, but there's a delicate line because sometimes you play too conservatively and you're like, oh, I should have benched that Pokemon because now I don't have like Sabrina protection. But basically the main focus is you're trying to deal a lot of damage with Executor, hopefully take out at least 1 Pokemon with Executor, backed up by the Ericas and just its raw tankiness and head flips. And then you set up the Celebi in the back as the late game sweeper. So either you get, you know, their EX that you need to get after your Executor gets a single point, or if you have Erica, for example, and their deck has like a low attack threshold, like if it's a fighting deck, then you know the Celebi is going to last a couple of turns. Then you can, you know, maybe get 2 big swings with the Celebi. There's also quite a few games where it's actually more beneficial to load up the Superior and get guaranteed damage rather than coin flip damage. But the amount of times that happens is really low, but it does happen in at least at some point in all the tournaments I've played so far. But yeah, those are the reasonings for my deck choices. Hopefully this was insightful in some manner, and yeah, if you could leave a like or a comment, I'd appreciate it. We're about to hit 10,000 subs, which is really hype. I think like 80 subs away. And I will see you guys soon.